My name's Colin. I work at the Vancouver Native Housing Society, and I'm responsible for building out our new assets and to increase the amount of housing we can afford to offer Indigenous families and individuals throughout Metro Vancouver. And we're about to do a rebrand too. It's unofficial, but we're renaming ourselves to the BC Indigenous Housing Society, which is quite exciting. And this story here is on 1766 Francis Street in Vancouver, and this building burnt down, as you could see, just days before Christmas in 2017. However unfortunate, we were able to relocate everyone. It was a big rush, and then literally out of the ashes, though, we're able to look at some new opportunities. And everyone, we're going to do our best. It's in construction right now to bring everyone back to this facility. It was, to basically triple the number of units that are available, thanks to all the funders that you typically have from BC Housing and CMHC and the City of Vancouver and whatnot. And so, the average utility bill in our units today, in terms of we're talking about the energy justice, is $333 a month. Is what we currently pay at Vancouver Native Housing for our 1,000 units every month. So we're doing $4 million a year as our bill to BC Hydro. That is 35% of our total operating. That's not 6%. Yeah. It's just nuts. And the majority of our tenants do not pay their energy bill. So the majority of our tenants do not understand how much they're consuming every month. So there's built-in inequities, not only in the consumption, but also the awareness and understanding of what they're actually consuming. And so we've got lots of work to do. We got to be a sandwich artist like 10 times over. And so the vision on this building, and thanks to the leadership of the organization, I'm only 5 weeks in, so I get to drink from the fire hose right now, is to build a wonderful building that's built using mass timber, as you can see here, and prefabricate it so we can reach all those efficiencies of making it an absolutely stunning building. As you can see here, inspired, culturally appropriate, basically looks like a Cedar rebuilding. You might have seen this in the news recently, but this will be an iconic building where the utility bills will go from $300 a month to hopefully in the 20s. And that's what we're working on, and had wonderful conversations with the folks at Van City and their leadership about how can we put financing structures in place to recognize the fact that our organization, like many First Nations communities, like one community I worked with was the Yale First Nation, where their energy bill was also $300 a month for their tenants, and we built 10 units of passive house housing for them. Although at a small amount of number of units, huge impact for that community, their utility bills went to $13 a month. And so because Yale as a government was taking on that bill and paying that bill, because many of the residents weren't able to pay that charge because it was the choice between their food or children's medicine or what have you, those terrible stories that exist that no one talks about, and I'm glad we get to talk about today, is they decided that they would incorporate the additional cost to get to the passive house high energy efficiency standard because they know they're going to pay for it anyways some other way. Right. So they're able to take that $3,000 a month that they're going to pay and pay the additional mortgage cost of about, it was only about $300,000. So $3,000 a month definitely can cover off $300,000 mortgage. And that got them to the energy efficiency standard. And that time it was the most energy efficient housing ever funded by CMHC or INAC in 2018 in Canadian history. And then we're seeing more and more of that happening, especially today. And so you're going to see really awesome housing. And that's Len George in the background there. Awesome man from Tsleil-Waututh. And so we just got an amazing story that's I'm more looking. My presentation is going to be quick because I really want to get into the conversations about how we create these solutions. But this is a building which I hope will be iconic and something we can represent and provide efficiencies for not only our existing 22 buildings and 1,000 units as we redevelop it, but we have a plan to redevelop over 3,000 more units over the next 10 years. So we'll have 50 buildings hopefully built to look something like this over the next many years that will have the efficiencies not in the built environment about not having to redevelop a building over time, and you're going to save $1 or $2 million per building just because we don't have to redesign it every time. But we'll be able to get those energy efficiencies aspects to it, net meter the building, so maybe our tenants don't actually pay for the energy, but at least they're going to know what they're consuming, and that awareness changes habits, and maybe we can make it a bit of a competition too, saying who consumed the less amount. But they're also going to be really easily to cool, really easy to heat. Basically, I built some passive house units up in Bella in Heltzig territory for the nurses station there, and that building would overheat in the winter because if you had a party over, there was too many people in the room, and you had to keep the windows open. Actually, Yale, when the people finished the construction of it over the winter, they finished it. Everyone moved in, and it was great. And then someone was trying to turn on the heat for some reason. It wasn't working. And I guess the party that was finishing the construction forgot to commission the heat, but no one noticed, because it would heat itself just from the appliances, the off heat from your body heat, the television, all those different things that you have that you can really take advantage of. What's really important is, and I see this in communities as well, is net metering your facilities in your communities using Enterpro, QMC sub-metering and stuff like that, because we're seeing an inequity where BC Hydro, and I'm not slagging BC Hydro, I'm just saying that this is an opportunity for improvement, having worked at BC Hydro myself, is if we sub-metered everything like we treat malls, we treat communities like we treat malls, where the landlord of the mall would sub-meter out to its tenants in the mall. So they take a large commercial client at 6 cents and sub-meter it out to their tenants at 12 cents, plus they get the admin fee. On 1,000 units, that can be a substantial amount of revenue every month. That's core funding for your housing manager. And so we need to start looking at that, because you look at that value over the last 15 years, like that's several $100 million that's going to hydro and the provincial government that could stay in communities. Right. And that takes a sandwich artist to make. I just love that term. And so we're looking at doing an ISP and providing a public Wi-Fi benefit to our tenants, because we're here, we exist at the delight of our tenants who we serve and our families. And again, those are admin fees and challenges to that. To create an ISP for a building, it will cost you a minimum of $3,000 per building. After that, as long as you cover off those costs, you can run Wi-Fi to anyone else, and that's governed by the CRTC. You get these really cheap access to internet. And so those are the structures we're going to put in. The other one I really want to do, and if anyone wants to learn how to do this, just give me a ring, is your mortgage payment is typically, and your rental payment are typically the most expensive expenses you have every month, right? Your mortgage payment goes to your credit rating. And we talked about this at Van City, your rental payment doesn't. But it's the same thing, really, at the end of the day. So there's an organization that actually figured out how to register your rental payment in partnership with the landlord and the tenant with Equifax. So after 6 months of doing this, a person's credit rating will jump on average 80 points. That makes a huge difference from jumping from a 620 credit rating to a 700, right? And so we're not talking about those things. And guess how much that costs to do that? Like hardly nothing, but a huge impact. So that's the type of stuff where, again, if we do that through our 1,000 families, that's a massive economic impact. I would love for BC Hydro and Fortis and any other utility in Canada to do the exact same thing for their utility bill. Again, it's a different amount, same effect on your credit rating, if we're talking about these types of things. So they're structural, they're institutional, but again, it needs everyone in this room to, basically rally around these types of things and get it done, because unless someone actually talks about it and forces their decision makers, some of which are in this room, to actually go do this, nothing happens. And we keep seeing that for another 15 years. And so another few $100 million just goes down the tubes because no one was challenging it. So thanks so much.